Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Michael Noland here, and tonight we're going to talk about two bands. We're going to talk about Mötley Crüe, we're going to talk about Def Leppard, and their seemingly never-ending tour. Now, if you've seen more than a handful of my videos, many of you will know that I've been quite critical of the music industry, and I think that it is at death's door at this point, and that's not good for rock and roll. I have been critical of sky-high ticket prices that include higher gas prices to get to the venue, parking prices to park at the damn venue, and of course, once you're in, you pay even more for any food or beverages, and then, after all those expenditures, you get the pleasure of paying for the most expensive t-shirt you ever paid for. I've spoken out against morons acting irresponsibly. One such band we're going to talk about tonight. How now you even get a bracelet for those extremely high tickets you pay for, and you become part of the light show. More on that in a minute. And precisely because of those high ticket prices, most of us observe all of this from nosebleed seats, high up, away from most of the action. Now, all of this is happening in a climate where the mighty dollar has shrunk quite a bit for most of us, hasn't it? And if that wasn't enough, we get other morons who seem to think that rock concerts are their pulpit, preaching their politics, often backing up, whether for good or bad, folks. I'm not saying that what they're for isn't a good thing that we might not consider. But it always costs the taxpayer money. All of these pompous rock stars who will tell you what to think, who to think is right for this country or for the world in general. We are in a shrinking economy. Many of these so-called rock stars telling us to even spend further money on tax dollars for whatever programs or politics they want to espouse on both sides of the political aisle, folks. No sides here. And yet their ticket prices go sky high. They are asking you to put your hard-earned dollars not only to see them, but to back up their programs, to back up their political ideologies, right? More money out of your pocket, and yet here we are in hard times, and what band can you name right now that has directly lowered their ticket prices due to hard times? Boy, you know, if I ever had any doubts that the rock industry and most of the bands, most of the artists weren't in the tight grips of the Hollywood crowd, I'm absolutely sure of it now. And then we get bands like Mötley Crüe and their never-ending tour. Now you might be asking yourself, what do you mean? They just finished their tour. Well, yeah, they did. Just in time for a quick Christmas break to spend time with their families and loved ones and spend all that money they've been making lately. Then in February, they're off on another world tour. Nothing more than the extension of the 2022 tour. And then after the 2023 tour, they are going to tour America again. Isn't that wonderful? You know, it's so nice to know that we can be so assured of what Mötley Crüe has offered us so steadfastly in 2022. You know, Tommy Lee drumming to a click track. Tommy Lee encouraging people to publicly disrobe. I think that's illegal, isn't it? Tommy Lee basically taking the spotlight off of the fact that Vince Neil is so out of shape, he looks more like a slug than a human, and on top of that, the man can't sing. Add to the fact that this band hasn't put out an album since the Dark Ages, and what do you have? You have a traveling circus, don't you? Think about it. Every time you go and take your family to a circus, you pay a reasonable price to get into the circus. It's in the carnival, and it's in the food. You know, everything we've already discussed, where they make this up. My background is in sales, and I was trained by boiler room experts from the 30s and 40s. They knew how to turn a dollar. And all of that stuff is loss leader items, folks. That is high profit right there. And let's get back to this idea of you being part of the light show with these new bracelets, right? Do you know bands have to pay for light shows one way or another? Some bands own their own light show. Some lease light shows. Some use the light show of the local venue. But one way or another, the price for that light show goes into your tickets. Now here you are at the concert, and what is happening? You've paid for this. And guess what? You are now working for the band. You're part of the light show. You would think that if you paid for a ticket and got a bracelet, you'd get a discount. Now, you know, there's another band that's been touring with them. Actually, there were 3 other bands this year, but one band for sure will continue to tour with them in 2023 on their world tour, and that's Def Leppard. Now, I don't know how these 2 bands hooked up. I know they have similar audiences. I don't hear the similarities between the 2 bands, really. They seem to attract a general audience, but you know, the difference between Mötley Crüe and Def Leppard is, on one hand, you have a band who has never learned from their mistakes, not from their personal mistakes, not from their band mistakes, not about anything. Yet over here, we have Def Leppard. Now, they weren't exactly innocents going through their history, and they suffered for it. But you know, this band over here learned a thing or two. That's what I was talking about in one of my other Mötley Crüe videos, is that where is the band that has changed over the years, gained some wisdom, and would offer that to their fans, either by decor or by some of the lyrics in their new music. No, we don't get any of that, do we? We just get the trailer trash Park Boys. And you know, I'm so done with them that I couldn't see myself actually paying to go see them and Def Leppard so that I could see Def Leppard. I just wouldn't want to go through the circus. I would love to see Def Leppard. I would love them to tour on their own. They've even got a brand new album out, and it's a great album. You know, if you haven't listened to Diamond Star Halos, give it a listen to. You know, this band has grown. They say it's a tribute to the glam rock era, and I do hear that. You know, I'm going to cover this album. I really wasn't aware of it until I started prepping for this video. But I got to tell you, folks, I loved it. You know, this is what I guess I'm trying to say about Def Leppard. Def Leppard is a band that has not been untouched, trust me. And yet they've learned along the way, and it has improved their music. Their music has matured, and yet it is stadium rock music. Man, these guys are really happening. You know, we need more bands like this. And a lot of bands will tell you, well, making an album, it's just not feasible these days. And with album sales not being what they used to be, it's not even a smart move. And so a lot of bands don't even strive to write new material, forgetting the fact that it was their material that we fell in love with to begin with. Well, in the case of Motley Drool, not me, but Def Leppard, I've enjoyed them since they've been out. And you know, a lot of people are saying the album is dead. All right, I understand that, but there are different ways to market and to produce and create new music. I hope to God it's not just by singles. I'm hoping that there would be a market in the future for EPs, extended players. In other words, something that sits between an extended single, you know, 4 cuts, and an album of, say, 12 cuts of traditionally length songs, right? Okay, so somewhere in between there. Somewhere under a half an hour in total length, maybe even closer to 20 minutes. And who in the hell ever said that a CD is this small, so the artwork needs to be this small, and an album is this big, so the artwork needs to be this big? That's archaic thinking. You could still do in the digital and still supply larger artwork, maybe not even as large as an album, but large enough so that people could enjoy the total product. And I think it's time that that product include other things. I'm just waiting for a band that puts out, say, an EP that also has a book that's included in it on poetry by the lyricist of the band, along with some very artistic photographs that go along with the entire concept that was perhaps photographed by the drummer or whoever in the band. In other words, where are the bands that are looking at the multimedia angle of all of this and producing brand new and yet exciting ways to present their music. You know, it gets to the point where you really got to think outside the box sometimes in order to keep up with the pace of change or just change of whatever people expect of you. Artists for a millennia have fought against this, and we've even got now proposed legislation from the music industry, of course, asking for radio stations to pay special fees to them for the music they play. Now, do you see what's wrong with that? The music industry destroyed itself. You know, it wasn't all just Napster. That industry was in trouble before Napster ever hit, and it was bloated. And they would have never thought to ask a radio station. In fact, remember payola? They paid radio stations to play their music. Now, the lazy music industry wants to be paid. Screw them. You know, in the end, folks, it always gets back to you and I. We're the consumer. What will we pay for? To what degree? And what are we willing to put up with at these live concerts? What are we willing to pay for as far as new musical products? What are we willing to demand for is what I would like to know. All right, guys, I'm so glad to have finally gotten back into a new video here. I was off for a couple of days. Now, of course, as always, the names you see in front of me are brand new subscribers. I always try to give a shout out. Now, the shout outs in this fashion, this special fashion, are going to cease after October the 28th. That's just a couple of days away, folks. So anybody who signs up or subscribes to the channel will get these special shout outs. I'm trying to figure a way to shout out new subscribers in a general way, and I'm still exploring that option. Of course, the channel is going full time. I'm right in the middle of that transition. So if you enjoyed the video tonight, by the way, please give it a thumbs up. You know, that helps the YouTube algo demon do its job. It gets in there and it starts sending incendiary sparks onto the internet, and for some strange reason the channel grows. All right, so, and by the way, I want to thank you if you've shared my videos. As I've said many times, this channel really took off after one key share. Just one, and this channel blew up. And of course, every once in a while you'll hear me mention Wayne at Soul Train Bro. That's the guy who had a much larger channel than this channel ever dreamed to be at that point. He featured a couple of my videos in toto on his channel, and the channel just grew from there. And so thank you, brother. I appreciate it always. That's the video tonight, folks. I'm Michael Noland. We are The Tribe, and I'll see you in my next video.